All right, welcome in everybody. This is Christy Lee here on KLIM.news, Christy Lee TV. And if you've been watching any length of time, you know my backstory, probably ad nauseum at this point. Been in news for 20 years, saw that it was really changing, felt uncomfortable with it. So decided to break free from the corporate control and do things independently. Really have been focused and passionate about exposing what I see happened to journalism, what's wrong with it. And I do that pretty much every week, pretty much in every story. I'm showing how all these adjectives are mixed in and how sources are missing at times and how the news has really not become about balance. And so I strive to bring balance back by elevating the other side or elevating voices that you don't get to hear from mainstream media. I've been following a little bit about Simon Ateba, and I'm going to have to double check with him if I'm saying that name right. Should have done that beforehand. But he is a chief White House correspondent for Today News Africa, and I'm really been inspired by his story. He's been very vocal about how he's been treated by the White House and really kind of sidelined by that administration. And so without taking up any more time, I'm going to just go ahead and bring him in. First of all, Simon, did I get your name right? How do I say your last name?
Yes, Simon Ateba. Yes.
Ateba. Okay, great.
Yes.
Your story is so
Most
fascinating.
people say Ateba, but it's actually Ateba. Yeah, but
Ateba.
you said it. Yeah, right.
I said it right once.
Yeah.
Let me stop saying it so that I know that I said it right at least once. So thank you so much for coming on with me. Your story is very courageous, and actually, I want to learn more. I know there's so much more I can learn about your story. So you are a chief White House correspondent for Today News Africa, and I know it will be very hard to summarize your journey to this position, but as best as you can, how long have you been a journalist, and how long did you find yourself in this position?
So I've been a journalist for more than 13 years. I've done only one job, journalism. I did my first degree in journalism, mass communication, did my second degree in journalism, mass communication, and I've not done anything else. Since 2007, since 2007, I've not done anything else except journalism. I
It's
used
been
to
your
work.
life, right? Okay.
Yeah, it's been my whole life. Uh, Most people do other things, like they go into one profession and then they become journalists. I have always been journalism, covering different bits from politics to aviation to you know now the White House.
What was your motivation for your love of journalism and wanting to be passionate and focus on that?
I think it was just curiosity, right? Trying to understand people. I got to understand that every person that you meet is like a continent, right? You don't really know them. You get to know them. You get to know them by knowing their story. And, you know, we think we really know people, but when you sit down with people and ask them questions and try to understand them, not doing what is called confirmation bias, right? Where you go to someone and you're like, she's female, so she should behave like this. He's male, so he should be like this, or he's Republicans or Democrats. But, really going there with an open mind and trying to understand who the person is, what's their story, how did you get here, what drives you on, how are you, why, stuff like that. You really get to know people. And to me, it was curiosity, trying to understand people, trying to tell the stories of people that we don't really get to know by just looking at them.
I love that you said it was really a sense of curiosity that made you driven toward journalism, because it was the same for me. I was that annoying kid asking a million questions, trying
Mhm.
to spy on family happenings around the walls, you
Yeah.
know. And one of the things I've noticed in journalism is it almost seems like there seems to be a lack of curiosity. A lot of journalists don't seem to want to dig deep and really challenge authority. And one of the tenets, as you know, of journalism is to hold those in power accountable and figure out what their motivations are, figure out if there's conflicts of interest. Now I have seen this trend of many journalists just parroting what they're getting in press releases, or doing fact checks and saying something's not true because, like, let's say if there's an accusation against the Pentagon, they'll say fact check, not true because the Pentagon says so. I mean, what kind of journalism is this? Are you seeing that as well?
Yeah, so the best thing that I've learned in journalism is is the word but, right? But. Um, when a politician says something, I'm giving $200 billion to Ukraine, but I'm the best guy, but I'm the king, the queen, or anything. But because that but, it's actually the story. Life is not perfect. People are not perfect. Pieces don't really fit well together. People are a mess, right? Every single person. When something is too perfect, when and which is what press releases and public relation firms, and that's what they do, right? They show you this rosy picture of this politician or this CEO, how great they are, how amazing they are. That bird will keep journalists in check. And most people don't do it anymore. Most people repeat press releases. Most people don't really question the authorities. And I think that stems from the lack of curiosity, right? And it's not just journalism. What happens is, as you grow older, you lose that childlike part of you, right? Remember when you were a child, you see new things and you observe so many things. You're curious, you ask questions, you want to go everywhere. What happens is, as you grow older, you believe that you know so much, and you know people, and you have conclusion. And when you go to people to do stories, you go there to confirm your biases, not to actually get to know them. And when you do that, you don't really do the story. You are just doing the story that is in your mind. You're doing the story that your newspaper wants you to do. You're doing the story that your network wants you to do, but you're not actually going to know people, getting to know people, ask them questions, trying to understand, check fact, and question the narrative that they are giving you. People don't do that anymore, and as a result, you have a publication that leans either left, that's right, either right or left, and you don't really get to have the story. And that's why someone like you comes into play and becomes so important, right? Because you are trying to bring back that balance and saying, hey, let's not worship people. Let's not worship people. Whether when it comes to politics, let's not worship Biden, let's not worship Trump. Let's see them as politicians and let's question them.
100%, yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and that's what has been lacking in the past few years.
I've been really trying to understand some of my colleagues, or former colleagues, I should say, and their defense of this radical change in what we have known to be the fundamentals of journalism. And I've thought about this, and I've kind of took a step back and realized there has been a lot of challenges in the field of journalism as far as an increasing demand of doing more with less, the increasing demand of suddenly integrating social media along with trying to make your deadline, and sometimes having to do your own live shots, get your own. It's a high demand business. You have to give up holidays. It's not easy. It really isn't. And I think in some ways, as I've been trying to understand this change and why there's not as many journalists willing to admit what we're talking about, I feel like it's almost become like this cult nature. Like, we have it tough. We understand each other. We understand the danger to our job and the difficulties. And there has been criticism that was pushed a lot by Trump in Trump's years, saying fake news all the time, and then you'd have people on the street being like, you're just fake news. So I feel like it was almost this cult nature of like being defensive, to the point that we cannot now agree that there has been fundamental changes to what our motivation as a journalist should be. And so do you have any thoughts on that? Do you think that that's fair to
Yeah,
say?
so the first thing I will say is that being a good journalist, right, is almost like being godlike. People are asking you to do what no one does in the society. People are biased, right? People are biased. People want to hear, want you to say what they want to hear. When it comes to politics, people are either Republicans, Democrats, or independent. And if they are Republican, they seem to like the same thing. If they are Democrat, they seem to like the same thing. Many people don't really want the truth. They want the truth when it comes to the other side. When it comes to, if you're a Republican, you want the truth when it comes to Hunter Biden and his laptop and, the Chinese, the corruption and all those things. And if you're on the left side, you don't want the truth on Hunter Biden or laptop and corruption and all those things. You want the truth on Donald Trump and the threat to democracy and corruption and all those things. And if you don't say those things that people really want to hear, what happens is they leave you. So people end up not really doing the job of journalism. People end up trying to please and keep their audiences. And the reason they do that is because, as you said, the social media has killed newspapers. A lot of newspapers, media houses are dying. They don't have money anymore. And as a result, people have to fight for the audience. I've had more than 42 million people who I've reached more than 42 million people on Twitter, but we've reached less people in our publication for the past 24 days of this month. And so I will say that you have scarce resources, you have competitions everywhere, you have audiences having different choices, and people are becoming more biased. And then those same people want journalists to be fair. So as a journalist, you need to be fair, you need to be balanced. But those things are not natural things, right? As a human being, you tend to be biased, you tend to be like everyone else. But if you want to be a good journalist, you need to be balanced. But if you want to do that, you also need the resources. But if you get the resources from the wrong source, what happens is you end up, doing the bid of those who pay you. And that's why it's so hard to be independent.
Absolutely. And well said. I'm not sure if something happened with your microphone. I can hear you, but I'm hearing you less. I'm hearing you more faint. Were you using microphone?
No. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. It's just softer than it was. It could be my own earpiece, so don't worry about it. Let me know, folks that are watching, if it sounds like he's softer, or if it's just maybe my earpiece. I'm not sure. But moving forward, there is a true danger to putting yourself out there and being a journalist. And we just most recently saw that in Orlando. Somebody just on the scene of a homicide investigation, tragically shot along with a 9-year-old. And I mean, I haven't even spoken on this because it's traumatic. I'm thinking of all of the times that I felt unsafe, that I was asked to go knock on doors in a neighborhood where someone had just been killed. And sometimes I was by myself at that time, a one-man band, if you will, like trying to do it all, and just sent out as a young, 20-year-old journalist and felt unsafe. But so it's definitely not foreign to think that this happened, and it's like every journalist's worst nightmare. But you have been yourself been in extremely dangerous situations. I know that you shared some of that with Tucker, who you've been with, and there's an interview coming out in a few weeks, another with Tucker. But what happened with you? What was the most dangerous situation you were in?
So I've had all kinds of challenges doing my job. I've been attacked on the Gulf of Guinea with an AK-47 to my head. I have been kidnapped in Nigeria from a bus and dumped in the woods and left for dead, but survived. I've been arrested in Cameroon and kept in a dark cell and, accused of being a spy for Boko Haram for doing my job. I've been beaten up in a church because I tried to take the picture of the church and tried to speak with the pastor in Lagos, Nigeria. I've also gone through challenges of trying to be independent, where you don't really get to have advertisement because people want you to pick one side, and when you refuse to pick one side, you become a loose cannon, and people don't really know what you will write, people don't know what you will say, and no one really wants to give you advertisement or give advertisement to your media house. And I've also had people who don't want to give us advertisement because they're afraid that we may offend the wrong person, or we ask the wrong questions, or we go after the truth that may affect people who are, on their good books. And so it's been challenges. I've seen it all. As a journalist, as a human being, as a male, I've not had the black privilege or the male privilege. People say, okay, male privilege. I say, where's the male privilege? I've struggled all my life to get the truth. I've struggled all my life to get the facts out. And so it's been tough doing my job. It's tough to be honest. It's tough to tell the truth. It's tough to ask the real question. It's tough to challenge the establishment. It's tough to challenge the mainstream media. And when you do that, you suffer, right? You pay. It's so hard because you find yourself trying to get the facts out and trying to tell the truth. But then you realize you don't have the support that you want. You can be shot at, you can be kidnapped, you can be killed. And then in the end, you don't even have the resources because people are afraid to give you the money that you need to tell the truth and be honest and get the facts out. And it's tough to do this job.
Yeah, it's very difficult, and we commend you for what you're doing. I did want to play a little bit of a video that you just posted this morning. A lot of people are talking about this Project Veritas battle between James O'Keefe and the board, and some of the whistleblowers are showing their support. So just going to play just a quick snippet of this. Give me one moment. Let's see here.
Project Veritas, and I stand with James O'Keefe.
I'm the CNN whistleblower for Project Veritas, and I stand with James O'Keefe.
HHS vaccine nurse whistleblower with Project Veritas, and I stand with James O'Keefe.
I'm the Department of Homeland Security whistleblower from Project Veritas, and I stand with James O'Keefe.
I'm the HHS whistleblower exposing government-sponsored, taxpayer-funded child trafficking. I stand with James O'Keefe.
Okay, and if you want to see the rest of that, it's basically all of the or well, not all of them, but a lot of the whistleblowers, and there's so many departments and things that have exposed what is really happening or could be happening. And this is a style of journalism digging deep,
Yeah.
but there's also criticism that Project Veritas has received, that it's too much, that he's honeypotting people and that this style of journalism isn't appropriate because people should be able to know that they're being filmed. What are your thoughts on that style of journalism in general?
Okay, so every person who goes after the truth has my support. It seems you can't hear me. Can you hear me?
Oh, no, I can hear you. I was
Okay,
just adjusting. It's just softer, but I probably just need to clean my earpiece. Go on. Don't.
So personally, I like James. I've been following him. All the great stories that he's done, and his team has done over the years. I like him, and everyone who goes after the truth, I'm for them. He's now leaving a company that he founded because of money, right? Because of how do you raise money? They have this disagreement on how do they do fundraising? How do they get money from people to keep doing the job, which is what we were doing before. And so understand, I don't film people without letting them know. I don't even because if you do that, you don't really last in the profession for a long time. You want to have the trust of the people. You want to let people know that you are filming them, but sometimes it doesn't apply when you have a criminal, right? You have someone who is a bad person, a criminal, maybe a killer. You don't want to, hey, I'm filming you, I'm recording you. But usually 99% of people, I just let them know that, hey, can we have an interview? And we schedule it. But I've done things like that, and I've been arrested for doing things like that. When I was arrested in Cameroon, was because I went to a refugee camp without proper authorization. And I did videos, the interviews, and took pictures. And when they saw all those pictures and all those videos, and they knew the damage that those things could cause, they just arrested me. So not every day, not every time, as a journalist, you be in a position to inform the person you're interviewing or filming or recording that you are doing that.
Now, let me ask you about that. So you have faced crazy situations, like you said, even having a gun to your head, thrown in jail, in these different situations. Now you come and you're covering the White House in America, and you are getting sidelined, not called on, and even had a situation with Secret Service holding you back here. But that seems, to pale in comparison with other experiences you have had. So do you feel like you're in a better position of trying to get the news here, or do you feel like it's just another method of subversion?
Okay, so I get to the White House because I believe that I even come to the US because I believe that when I came to the US, I believed I won't die again, right? It was almost like you won't die again. You're like, this is it. I'm in the US. I can now do my journalism. No more kidnapping. No more someone trying to silence me. I'm here. Is the land of freedom, and the braves, and here nothing can happen. And when I got to the White House, and I was like, oh my God, I'm in the White House. No more censorship. No more. I can now do my job and ask all the questions. And I was so wrong. And I realized that even though the US is the most advanced country on earth, in terms of even freedom, right? You can't compare the US to China or even Russia or dictatorships in Africa where you write something and they kill you or they try to jail you. But even though the US is advanced, is a great country when it comes to the First Amendment and all other freedoms, I realized that it's not perfect. And you still have to fight even in the White House. And it's not just me, right? I may say, Karine Jean-Pierre, the press secretary, or Jen Psaki, the former press secretary, that they are discriminating against me because I'm from Africa. Yes, they're doing that. I didn't see the same respect. And I saw that when I challenged them, it was almost like someone who is not meant to challenging you, and then you get upset. It's just like someone you despise asking you out, right? You despise this guy, and then he comes to you like, hey, can I take you out? And then you look at him, you're like, oh my God, what gives you the courage to even come to me and ask me out? And the guy's like, he doesn't see it. And he's like, you're a beautiful woman, and I like you, and I want to take you out. And you're like, didn't you see me? We are not on the same level. That's how they treated me at the White House, right? It was almost like,
you felt like they were like turning their nose up at you and just like,
yeah.
how dare you ask me a question, even though
how can you challenge me when I'm saying that the Omicron variant is South Africa should be, how dare you? That's how Psaki, people love her. She's in MSNBC, but I was able to see the arrogance, the disrespect, and that's how Karine Jean-Pierre, the current press secretary, people love her. She's on TV. She's appearing. She's doing those things. But behind the scene, I was able to see the spirit, right? I was able to see how, the level of disdain and disrespect and feeling that you don't have the right to challenge me. And so I was able to see that. And I saw the discrimination right in the White House, and which was really, really sad to see that even in the White House, you still have to fight. Things are not perfect. And and they did that to me, but they also did some similar things with people who don't really agree with their narrative. People from the Daily Caller, people from the New York Post, the Washington Times, Al Jazeera, Newsmax, and people who are not right-leaning publications. And I'm sure maybe the people before did that to left-leaning publications. And so those people don't get called on. The person from the Daily Caller, Diana Glebova, who tried to ask a question to Dr. Fauci on the origins of COVID, she's not been called on. She was allowed in the room when President Biden did his last media briefing in the White House, but she was asked to leave the room, even though there were 23 seats. I wasn't even allowed in. They asked the Secret Service to keep me outside. So you must stay here. And the Secret Service was like, sir, we want you to stay there. And I couldn't believe it. Here I was, right in the White House, the most powerful places on earth, the place on earth with freedom and liberty. And I was in this land and this place where, the freedom of speech should be protected. But I was also being discriminated against because I asked some questions, because I come from Africa, because I sound different, because I'm Black, because they believe that I don't have their accent and I don't even know anything. How can you know anything when you come from Africa? How do you know about the White House? I'm like, give me a break. I've spent my entire life, right, listening to the White House, watching what's happening there every single day. I attend so many press briefings, do so many stories, talk to so many people. I'm good at my job. I can do this. But I saw people who looked down on me and who felt like, how dare you challenge us? And I could see and that's that level of disdain and disrespect.
Well, I mean, isn't it remarkable, because there's no question that there has been censorship efforts. I mean, Twitter has done a good job at revealing just how deep and wide the efforts even were, and even at the behest of government agencies. But what we're talking about right now is another tactic, like preemptive censorship, selectively editing who can even ask the questions, right?
Yeah.
So it's at a whole another level. On that note, First Lady Dr. Jill Biden went to Africa just recently, and you were saying that she selectively was able to decide who could ask her questions, and she didn't really take any questions from actual Africa reporters, only CNN.
No. So not just Africa reporters. When the First Lady travels, there's a pool, journalists who travel with her from the White House. And so the journalists who travel with her from the White House, yesterday, she's still there. She's on a 2 nations. She was in Namibia. She just traveled a few hours ago from Namibia to Kenya. And so while she was in Namibia, there was an event, and the journalists who traveled with her from the White House, and who paid for that trip to travel with her to ask questions and to do their job, while they were in Namibia, they were asked to leave the site of a venue, and they were held in a van so that the First Lady could do a private interview with CNN. And they were really surprised that, hey, that happened. Why don't you do a media event and, we can all ask you questions. And so a few hours ago, she traveled from Namibia to Kenya. And when she got to the airport, journalists were shouting questions. First Lady on Ukraine, she didn't acknowledge the question. But while they were already on the plane, mid-air, she came to them and she read a short statement, and she didn't take any question. Then she invited the CNN to her office mid-air to do an interview with her, and so the other journalists were also surprised. That happened a few hours ago, 2 or 3 hours ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So even more recent than I thought. So it looks like my time is pretty much up with you, but I just wanted to, let's end with this. Like, what would your message be to fellow journalists about the state of journalism here in America? What would your message be to them?
I will say that the first thing I want to say to everyone watching us is to go to my Twitter handle at Simon Ateba and subscribe to my Substack, contribute to our publication, keep supporting us. And I will say to fellow journalists that I understand you. The state of the media is appears to be bleak. We are losing the audience, but the only way to gain back the audience is to say the truth, be fair, be balanced, and not allow yourself to become not to do those things, because when you begin to spread lies, and people will lose interest and they will leave you, and they begin to read Simon Ateba or Today News Africa, our publication, because we stand by the truth.
Very good. So yes, definitely support what Simon is doing. He's a true journalist, fearless, and trying to challenge authority, which is a major tenet of journalism, or at least it used to be, to hold those in power accountable. That's what he's trying to do and has faced opposition. So follow him on Twitter. And also there'll be a link there on your Twitter on how to find your Substack, right?
Yes.
Okay. So make sure that you're supporting him. Share this interview widely. I'm extremely shadow banned more than ever. So do what you can to beat the algorithm. Share this widely. And you can support me by going to my website, klim.news, klim.news. That stands for Christy Lee Independent Media. There you can find other ways to donate, since Facebook has stolen my money. What little I did get, Facebook has not released to me and is suppressing. So that's another way that you can support what I'm doing. Just go to the website for other options on how to support me or my sponsors. But I just want to say that I'm just so impressed with you, Simon. And one of the things that really endeared me to you is when Tucker had you on and your account was growing there on Twitter, and you were just so genuinely appreciative and like, thank you for support. I just can't believe that I went from, this many, just a few thousand, to like 100,000 overnight. And I just think it's such a genuine, authentic reaction, and so much humility embedded in. So I just really admired that about you. And I know that you're going to continue to be humble and have integrity. And we thank you for your service.
Thank you for having me. You are doing a great job. And I will ask my followers also to follow you.
Thank you so much. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. And with that, I'll see you next time.